Hey guys, it's Christina. Welcome back for the last time in 2025. So, as you saw by the title of today's video, we're doing a 2025 reading wrap-up, which is actually kind of insane because I just feel like this year has absolutely flown by for me, and I have read a lot of books, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about some of them today because I read a lot of books and I don't remember most of them, the plot. I'm gonna give you guys all the books I read each month, and then I'm gonna talk about my favorites and a few other things that I wanted to talk about. Without further ado, let's get started because I read a lot of books and I think it's important for you guys to know what I read. So I have my iPad here, so I'm gonna be reading off every single book from every single month. This is gonna be kind of like a rapid fire thing, and then we'll be getting into the nitty-gritty of every month. So in January, I read Downpour by Maggie C. Gates, A Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden, Heartstopper Volumes 1 through 5 by Alice Oseman, and then a Spanish book called Un Cuento Perfecto by Elizabeth Benavent. So technically, I have a list of 4 books here, but technically I read 9. So it was a pretty good reading month considering I had just finished my exams that month and I was ready to go to sleep. I was ready to go to sleep, basically. And then in February, we have 2 books for school, which I'm not gonna bore you with. And then we also read, I started this book last April. I finished 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna West. And then I also read The Right Move by Liz Tomford, which one of my friends gave me the physical copy of this book before she went back home. And I was just so happy that she thought of me when she bought this. Obviously, she bought this knowing I'm a reader, and she had read it, and she's like, I just knew you would love this. And I was just like, we go into my birthday month, and then this month we finally find my first 5-star read. I say finally because I know some people are gonna be like, girl, it's just March. I give out 5 stars pretty easily, you will see by the end of this video, but I was frustrated. I wanted a 5-star read. I couldn't really find it anywhere, but this happens in March. So in March we read Brushing Up Business by Amir Adhanali. I don't want to mess up her name. Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which was a close 5 stars, but it wasn't a 5 stars. Reread If Only He Had Been With Me, Some Shall Break by Ellie Marney, The Temporary Roomie by Sarah Adams, The Rulebook by Sarah Adams, and then Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. March was a Sarah Adams month. I started to want to finish series I was in the middle of, and Sarah Adams has like a lot of smaller duologies that I wanted to like finish up. It turns out I've been reading like one of each, and I just kind of want to like wrap that up. And then in April, I had 2 more 5-star reads. April was, I feel like, even though I only had 2 5 stars out of like 8 reads, I had one of my best reading months. I went to Ireland that month. I had my spring break, obviously, because I went to Ireland, and I just had a good time reading overall. So I read Heartless by Mr. Meyer. I did my annual reread of Normal People, which I already feel like doing. I kind of want to postpone it again for the same time next year, but I just really want to reread Normal People already. Then I read Fireline by Maggie C. Gates, and then we're back on the Sarah Adams train. I read Beg, Borrow, or Steal, which I think that's the last release book in the When in Rome series, and the only one that's left is the one that comes out, I believe, this next March. And then I read Daydream by Hannah Grace, and then I read a book for school, but this one I kind of want to talk about just because like I think it's interesting. It's called The Journalist and the Murderer by Jeanette Malcolm. I did not expect it to be what it was, and I hated it. That's what I wanted to say about it. And then lastly, in April, I read Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which we all know. I absolutely adore her and her writing. In May, I read A Novel Love Story by Ashley Pawson, Picking Daisies on Sundays by Liana Karate, Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering, which I think that's my worst read of the year. And then Lost and Lasso by Lila Sage. I know it's only 4 books. I say only, like only for me, but considering it was my exam month, I think I did pretty well. I had my finals in May, so I think to be in the middle of finals and finish 4 books, I think that's pretty impressive. Then we go to June, where we had my longest reading month. I had absolutely nothing to do that month, so I read 10 books, and we started with a banger. We started with Binding 13, then we went to an arc, which was Second Position by Madison Sydney, then we went back to Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh, then to another arc, which was Good Hair Days by Helena Grace Walls, and then we went finally back to normal reads. I read The Reappearance of Rachel Price, I read King of Greed by Ana Huang, I read One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune, I read Wild and Wrangle by Lala Sage, finishing that series. I read Also More by Ellie Morney, which I also finished that trilogy, and then Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood, which was honestly a banger. I read that on the plane and it just perfect. And then in July, I went to see my dad, so I was a little more busy. So I read King of Sloth by Ana Huang. I read Not Our First Rodeo by Madison Wright, that was also an arc. And then I read King of Envy by Ana Huang. I read Yours Truly by Amy Jimenez. I read Consider Me by Becca Mack. I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden, which was my book number 50, and that was my reading goal for the year. And then I read Don't Let Me Fall by Kelsey Ray. And then in August, I read only 2 books. This is where it kind of goes downhill, as you knew by the previous video. I read Saving Six by Chloe Walsh, Made for Each Other by Lynn Painter. In September, I read Wild Eyes. In October, I read Reckless by Lauren Roberts. In November, I read Promise Me Never by Nicole Greeny. And then I read Fearless by Lauren Roberts. So those are all the books up until November. And now I can finally talk about the books. In December, I will give you a proper wrap-up right now of the books I read in December. December was kind of crazy of how much I read. I read a total of 6 books. It is currently December 27th, so I can technically still finish another book. I'm in the middle of Caught Up and this like little Christmas novella, but if I do finish them, I'll update you guys in the next video next year, which is, I know it's like in 2 days, so like it's kind of still crazy to say. But in December, I read Promise You Forever by Nicole Greeny. This one is a second to the duology of Promise Me Never, and it's kind of like a second chance romance, like getting her back, and it was just a cute cowboy-ish romance. I found it on Kindle Unlimited. I had been frustrated from the past months of not finishing any other books, so when I found the first one, I read in like a day and like, you know, like sporadically, and I just like really enjoyed it. It was like nothing special, but like I really enjoyed it, and then I obviously had to read the second one, so that's what I did. I think I gave that around like a 3-something stars. I also finished Redeeming Six, which, if you know, I've been reading since like July 29th, and I still loved Redeeming Six. I was in a slump, let's say it. I was in a slump. I keep saying in like the past 3 videos, but yeah, I finished Redeeming Six. I think I gave this like a 4.25. Great story. I just love, we all know Chloe Walsh is becoming one of my favorite authors. And then I read Good Spirits, which was my last 5-star of the year. I know some of you are gonna be like, girl, it's just a holiday romance. Not to me, but yes, I get it. And also, I just hadn't felt like that in so long for a book that it gave me the 5-star feeling. That's literally what I'm trying to get at. This book gave me the 5-star feeling, so that's why I gave it a 5 stars. And then I read My December Darling by Lauren Roberts. We all know, if you were watching my little book miss series on TikTok, it was okay. It was an okay book. I kind of just, I was a little down because I had just come off from a really great high with Good Spirits, that My December Darling was like, okay, this is just like a cute holiday romance. That's how I felt. Then I read this other book for school, so that one's on the side. And then finally, I read Heated Rivalry because the show was not enough. I read it before the last episode that came out yesterday, which I can't even talk about because I don't want to give any spoilers, but I read it before that came out, and I was just like, I need more. I need to read The Long Game. I'm saving that for next year, but I need to read The Long Game. I know the second season is not, literally, we're not going to have the second season until 2027, which... But I really, really, really loved Heated Rivalry. And that is all the books I read in 2025. I read 63 books, which honestly crazy. I used to read a lot more. That's kind of a goal for next year, but we'll talk about that in the next video. But crazy amount of books, honestly, for like someone who's pretty busy and just like, I feel like I don't have time for everything. And then I had 12 5-star reads, which, like I said, considering I give 5-star reads here and there, that's not too many for me, especially compared to my beginning of my reading journey. Everything was a 5-star. And then we have a few like stats, right? So we have my Goodreads stats from the Goodreads wrap up, and then my Fable stats. So I just want to say both of them, my average rating was a 3.7, which I think it's kind of like interesting how they coordinate, mostly because Fable, you can be a lot more specific in your rating. Like in Goodreads, it's either a 4 or 5. Even if you're like a 4.75, right, you have to pick either 4 or 5. In Fable, you can be a lot more specific. I thought that was kind of funny. And then for my Goodreads stats, Goodreads said I read a total of 24,191 pages. It's just a tad bit less than that because the only book I DNF'd was Tell Me Lies. But that's just absolutely insane that I read that many pages. I can't even fathom it. Like, I'm like, there's no way. Like, no, there's no way. Goodreads also said I read an average page length of 383 pages, and my most shelved book was Normal People, while my longest book was Keeping 13. Those two are highly expected. I get Normal People in my stats every single year. And then for my Fable stats, like I said, average rating 3.7. And then my most read authors this year was Oz Osman. Of course, I read 5 books of hers. Anna Huang and Chloe Walsh. Of course, there's other authors integrated in this, just like Sarah Adams, but I want to give you my top 3 out of the top authors I read. And then Fable also said I'm on the top 10% of romance readers, which I feel like there's a lot of romance readers on Fable, so I kind of felt like special. I know it's not like the best, like it's not like the Spotify side where you're like 0.00001% of listeners, but I feel like that's pretty good stat for Fable, especially because I'm on more of a Goodreads girly. But those are the stats, and now I'm going to tell you my 12 5-star reads so you guys can have them all together. I'll put pictures of them. But my first 5-star was Some Shall Break, then Normal People, then Carrie So Is Back, then Binding and Keeping 13, The Reappearance of Rachel Price, One Golden Summer, Problematic Summer Romance, Yours Truly, Wild Eyes, Reckless, and last but not least, Good Spirits. There's one last review I wanted to do, which was my Kindle. I got my Kindle last Christmas. I've been loving this thing. I think I have read a lot more books than I would have read if I had only had my old Kindle or my phone. So I do think a Kindle's a good investment if you're looking to ask for this for your birthday or something. I think, okay, I just love my Kindle. I have, like I said, I read most of the books I read this year on my Kindle. I love the settings. I love everything. I love that I can carry it around for someone who is also on the move and I have family abroad. And I just love reading when I travel. I think it's great. So I think you guys should get a new reader. It doesn't have to be a Kindle. Like, you can get a new reader, but I think as someone who, I love my physical reads, but I do think someone who has a Kindle, it's just great. If you don't know what to ask for this next birthday, I think you should definitely ask for one of these. And yeah, that's my last video for 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed. I have a lot of fun plans for the next new year, and one of them is hopefully posting a lot more videos. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed all the videos this year. And with that being said, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye!